think a lot of times you get influenced by your parents, and for instance, my dad was a principal. So when I was starting to think about my career and getting into high school, I think it was just kind of a natural move into that direction. I wanted to teach because he was a teacher, and then eventually I became an administrator like he was an administrator. So I think that my parents' influence was a big factor in why I chose education as my profession. My favorite part of the job is just being around the students every day. They have an incredible amount of enthusiasm. So it's always fun to see when they come into school how excited they are, how they want to tell you about what they did the night before, and it's a very fun environment. Elementary schools are very fun environments, and I think that just that excitement every day is kind of what just gets me excited about coming to work every day. I love to go to Bears games. I love football, and I go with a buddy, and we have a really good time, but I just wish we were a little bit more successful. My wife, Gina, is a special education supervisor for the co-op in LaPorte. She just started that job this year after being a transition coordinator for the last 8 years in the school corporation. And we have a 10-year-old son who's a 5th grader at Critchfield named Chase. And Chase was involved in track, and now he's in basketball. I think he's planning on doing ring toss too, and he plays violin, and he's also involved in tennis. And he's just a very happy kid, so it's a lot of fun. He's great. I actually did student teaching in both Indiana and in England. So I did it in Martinsville for 10 weeks, and then I went over to a place called Hassocks, England, which is a little bit south of London, and I did an additional 10 weeks. That was back in 1995. So it's a unique opportunity that a lot of people don't get, and I was able to be over there for the 10 weeks, and I got to travel for 2 weeks because at Easter they get 2 weeks off. So I was able to go to Paris and up to Scotland, and not just England. So that's probably something interesting that not a lot of people know. Well, I started my teaching career in Michigan City, where I'm a Michigan City Rogers graduate. So I did 6 years in Michigan City, and then my wife and I decided to move to San Antonio for 5 years. So we both taught at at San Antonio Holmes High School for 5 years, from 2001 to 2006. And then I taught special education for 2 years in South Bend, and that's when I got hired on at LaPorte High School as an assistant principal. And then after 6 years there, I came here. This is my second year at Riley. It is a big transition because of the years that I taught, I only had 2 years of my 13 in middle school, which was 5 to 8 in South Bend. So I really didn't have that background like a lot of people do here. So last year was a tremendous learning curve for me. But that's a great question, because instinctually I still had that secondary background. And when you go into a kindergarten classroom to observe the teacher, it's very different from what you'll see from a junior English teacher at the high school. So I did have to make those adjustments, but it's always good, I think, in any career that you have, to continue to challenge yourself and grow. And that's what I've been able to do the last year and a half, is just continue to challenge myself and learn a little bit more about the elementary level. I think when I was a kid, I wanted to be in the NBA. I loved basketball. I played a lot of basketball, and that was always my passion. And of course, when you're a kid, you think you're like better than everyone, and then when I had a little moment there that I'm not quite good enough to make the NBA, I think I switched into education. I think probably the hardest part of my job is seeing some of the test anxiety in entering 3rd grade, when the students are 8 or 9 years old and they're just starting to feel that test anxiety with I-Step and I-Read. That's a tough time, because up until that point, I think the kids really love school, and I think once we start the standardized testing, that love starts to fade just a bit, and then as they get older, it has an impact on them. So I think that's the hardest thing, is seeing that test anxiety in 3rd graders. But I will say that all the kindergarten and preschool students here call me Mrs. Alber. They always walk down the hallway and they all wave, they're excited, and they say, "Hi, Mrs. Alber," every day. So I always get a laugh out of that one.